This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to take a look at a Chromebook. This is the newest Chromebook from Acer, and it's the Acer Chromebook C720. Intel Haswell inside, more powerful than the average Chromebook, but still very affordable. $249. It'll be at Best Buy, Amazon, places like that pretty soon. We're going to look at it now. So here it is, Acer's latest Chromebook. Pretty much Samsung and Acer have been the two big players in Chromebooks. Of course, Google had their own branded Pixel, which is a much more expensive item. Most Chromebooks are affordable things, and at that, this is one of the most affordable at $249. This is the new generation Chromebook. This is the C720 model that replaces soon the C710. It's a bit thinner and it's a bit lighter, about a quarter-pound lighter. So always nice to see improvements in portability. 11.6-inch design right here. Genuine plastic everywhere. Now, what do you expect? These are the new netbooks, so you're going to get a lot of plastic here, but it's sturdy, it's rugged enough. It would probably survive being used by your child, your more responsible child anyway. Take a look on the side here. We can see we have USB 3.0 port, our combo audio jack, a full-size HDMI port, and that's our power connector. And the nice thing about the full-size HDMI here isn't just that you have that port, which is convenient, but this actually has a more powerful CPU inside. This is Intel Haswell generation. Now don't get too excited. This is still a Celeron model CPU. Those of you who follow Intel at all know the Celerons are always the low man on the totem pole. So it's 1.4 gigahertz dual core, no turbo boost here, but still up from the last generation non-Haswell that we had in the previous model, and that one was clocked at 1 gigahertz. So you're definitely getting improvements here. Intel HD integrated graphics on this. Again, don't expect too much for the money. This is not about high-end specs. This is about easy functionality for basic stuff that you're going to do, like web-based things, email, all that sort of thing, at a minimal price with a reasonably sturdy design. USB 2.0 port right here, a lock slot there, and a full-size SD card slot. We do have fan holes here, and on the bottom, since this is not a mobile kind of CPU like the Samsung Exynos used in some other Chromebook models, this is regular old PC style CPU, so fan is going to come on occasionally. It's not going to be rip-roaringly loud or anything like that. It's still a pretty low-powered mobile CPU in there. And these are our stereo speakers here with the grills on the bottom. If we open it up and take a look inside, we have instant on resume from sleep here, and it boots up very quickly if you ever really fully shut it down, which there's not too much of a need to do. Matte display inside, that's the good news. 1366 by 768 resolution, which is kind of standard resolution amongst smaller notebooks these days, so we're not going to complain. It is a TN panel, and that means that you do have to do some angling back and forth to get the best viewing angle, but it is improved from first generation Chromebooks, which had absolutely abysmal displays. I always thought they were a pretty neat idea, but the displays really held them back. So while this may not fight the IPS panel that HP uses in their Chromebook 11, it's not bad. And I've seen actually worse on $500 notebooks. Viewing angles will diminish, not as much from the side, but you can see how quickly they go. Now the display surround obviously is glossy. You can see reflections on black shiny plastic there. But that really shouldn't bother folks very much. It's reasonably bright. Colors are Again, it's $250. You're not going to get top quality hardware here. Keyboard, nice large keyboard given the fact that this is a very small device, and we can set the display that far back, so we can bring this up a bit, and you can see the keyboard. Pretty good key travel here, because this is not an ultra thin ultrabook kind of thing, and pretty rigid keyboard deck. If I press down here, I don't get much movement at all with my hand, so that's always a good thing. Trackpad, as Chromebook trackpads go, they're often not super duper great, and this one works fine. It supports two-finger scrolling, things like that. It's so far behaved pretty well for me. You can use USB mice and keyboards with this if you want to do that. That's pretty easy. Most supported. Even those wireless ones that come with a little RF transmitter dongle generally will work with this. Printing with Chromebooks is another thing. You're going to have to get into Google's cloud printing service. You can't just plug in your printer and install drivers like you would for Windows or Mac PC. So what makes the C720 a cool Chromebook? It's more powerful than most of them. Now granted, you don't need a super duper lot of horsepower for an operating system, Chrome OS, that basically is just a web browser. Now obviously there's a little bit more going on than just a web browser, but pretty much everything you're going to do is based on the Chrome web browser that's included. That said, I do notice some performance improvements when working on long documents using Google Docs, something like that, Word compatible document. And we have a 1.4 gigahertz, as I mentioned, fourth generation Intel Haswell Celeron CPU inside, dual core. 4 gigs of DDR3 RAM. Most Chromebooks have 2 gigs of RAM, so that means you can get more apps running at once, or more web tabs, shall we say, in this case, running at once. So you've got the image editor running in one, you've got Word or Excel document open in another, you've got the music player going, you've got YouTube playing. You've got enough RAM to do that without worrying about slowing it down. 16 gig SSD drive inside. You don't get much storage, generally speaking, though there have been a few Chromebooks that have had 320 gig spinning hard drives. In fact, Acer made one of those, but the operating system doesn't really require much space there. And since you're supposed to be working primarily on the cloud, where everything is stored up in the cloud for the whole paradigm of the Chromebook, you don't need much storage. You can use the SD card slot to augment storage. Of course, you can use USB flash drives too. Machine has dual band Wi-Fi 802.11 BGN. This model does not have 3G or 4G. Chromebooks used to really emphasize using 4G, LTE, 3G, that kind of thing, or even the Wi-Fi. And now more and more we're seeing offline access. You can do offline Google Docs work right now. You can use a whole bunch of, they call them like Chrome apps. They're basically little applets you download. Say you want to play Angry Birds when you don't have an internet connection. You can do that now. You can edit photos. You can set up your Google Drive, all your documents and photos and things that you have stored on Google Drive for offline access, and so you can actually keep copies locally and still get things done without having that internet connection. So that's definitely an improvement, because in the budget segment right here, we're not talking people who really want to have 4G bills every month. Despite the relatively fast CPU, and you can see here on the bottom, the battery is sealed inside. You could unscrew the bottom and get to it if you really had to replace it, but battery life on this has been pretty good. Acer claims 8.5 hours. Usually manufacturers are optimistic, and we've been seeing about 8 with mixed use on this. So that's actually pretty good for what's one of the most powerful Chromebooks. There's a 3950 milliamp per hour 3-cell lithium-ion battery inside. Weighs 2.76 pounds, so it's pretty light, pretty portable, easy to carry, not too thick here. And they've got a kind of Samsung-style taper going on. For the price, it's not that bad looking. Granted, again, it's not as stylish as HP's new Chromebook 11, but it's perfectly fine for the price. And for those of you who want the performance over the looks and the prettiness, that kind of thing, well, certainly makes a good case for the C720. And for those of you who are new to Chrome OS, the idea, again, is basically Chrome OS is the Chrome web browser. It's not like a Windows PC or Mac where you have a full operating system and you can install programs, exe kind of programs on this. Everything that you're going to do is going to be based on things that can run inside of the Chrome web browser. We have shortcuts down here to things like, well, just the web browser itself, to Gmail, basically, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Spreadsheet, Google Play Music. There's a YouTube player. Here's all of our apps right here and presented in a sort of Android-like way almost. So you can see we've got the Chrome web browser. We've got the store. I'll show you that in a minute. That's where you can get more apps that plug into Chrome. We've got our Google Play Books, our Google Play Videos, a calculator, Google Keep for those of you who need something that works sort of like Evernote, and I've downloaded Angry Birds just so we can see what that's like. And then the camera application for the webcam up top. Obviously, you can use Google's chat service if you want to do video chat here. Skype, not so much. And down over here in this corner, this is where you get to your settings. So, very basic stuff. Bluetooth on and off, your Wi-Fi connection, your volume. Gives you an estimate of how much battery life is left. And if you look at the Chrome OS settings, it looks much like the Chrome web browser settings there. So say you want to add more stuff to this. How do you do that? You go to the Google Chrome store. And we can take a look at the selections by category here. Communications, news, weather. So we have Gmail offline, Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, all the usual stuff. Because this is one big web browser, obviously anything you can do on a web browser you can do with this device. You can go to Facebook's webpage. You could even go to the Office 365 site and run Office 365. However, you're not going to get quite all the features here via the Chrome web browser that's included on this device. And here in the offline apps section, for those of you who are worried about not always having an internet connection, you can see what's available there. The Angry Birds that we downloaded, again, Google Gmail offline, Google Drive, you can set that to run offline, Pocket, Kindle Cloud Reader, which, well, that's sort of online, sort of offline. More games, you get the idea. So, once again, the point of this is if you blog a lot, if you Facebook a lot, if you use Google services, particularly Gmail, Google for doing your MS Office compatible kind of work, this is the device for you. If you need to install Photoshop, this is not the device for you. You can't do that here. But anything you can do in a web browser, you can do with this device. There's also a basic file manager, and I have some Office files and other things on a USB flash drive. We're going to plug that in and see how that works for us. And the file manager automatically pops up, makes life a little bit easier. So I've got a Word document here that's going to open in Google Docs, and there it is. And you got not everything you would have in Office here, but all the basics that are important for formatting and that kind of stuff. You can insert pictures, all that kind of thing, edit to your heart's content. If you need all the fancy features that you get in MS Office, generating table of contents, indexes, all sorts of things like that, footnoting, this wouldn't be the solution for you. But most average people don't need that, so that works just fine. And if we want to look at an image, and we've got our image preview here, and say I want to go ahead and edit it, I just choose the edit button. And basic things, cropping, brightness, rotation, that sort of stuff. So we're not talking about a Photoshop substitute right here, and you may have some online counterparts to image editing that you prefer, but you can work with your own documents that are on flash drives or SD cards, that kind of thing, and you can put these things up on your own Google Drive too. And you can share them pretty easily with anybody who has a Gmail address. Now how about Google Play Music? You launch the little Google Play Music icon, what do you get? Of course, once again, a web browser window. Same thing would happen if you use your Mac or your Windows PC to go to the Google Play website for music. And we've got our volume at about 3/4 right now. Pretty loud, not ultra full, but for an 11-inch netbook kind of device, not bad. And since this is Google, we have YouTube as well. Again, you have also access to your Google Play movies too on here. But let's check out YouTube. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Today we're going to look at the latest Kindle Fire. This is the Kindle Fire HDX, and certainly
so here it is, 720p, streaming over Wi-Fi.
Improvements inside. We're going to look at it now. So here it is, the latest Kindle Fire on the block. This one's called the Kindle.
So yes, you have YouTube, not a problem. And any website that you go to that supplies HTML5 video will also play just fine too. And how about Adobe Flash Player? Yes, as you can see right here, support is built in. You don't even have to go to Adobe's website. That's all handled by the operating system. And when it downloads updates, and you'll get a little up arrow on the taskbar at the bottom to let you know when there are updates available, you'll automatically get updates to Flash Player as needed, so you can watch Flash videos as well. And for those of you who can't live without things like Angry Birds, you can see we've got it running here, actually in offline mode. And there it is, works just fine. You're not going to be playing Left 4 Dead 2 on here or Battlefield 4, but you got Angry Birds.
So that's the Acer Chromebook C720, again for $249 if you need something that can get web browsing done, social networking, email, some light office document work, even a little bit of photo editing. It can do the job, so it's kind of the new netbook of the world, isn't it? Honestly, it's very powerful as these things go. Other than the Chromebook Pixel, of course, which is a much more expensive device, you're getting more horsepower here than you do with something like the HP Chromebook 11, so it's worth a look if you're interested in Chromebooks. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.